Every time I produce a podcast, I say to myself, well, that's it for the next few weeks. And then somebody asks a good question, and I feel not obliged, but I feel motivated really to produce another podcast. So it's only 2 days since the last one. Anyway, someone responded to a comment I made on the corporeal fantasy group on Facebook. I hate Facebook, but it's turned out to be fairly useful in this respect. Anyway, he posted a YouTube video by a fairly well-known kind of spiritual guru guy, a contemporary one. I won't mention names because this guy's a very nice guy, and he says some pretty good things, but in my opinion his central approach is deeply flawed. So I posted a comment on this YouTube video. I said deeply flawed, although deeply flawed in the most charming and pleasant way, a quick route to insanity. So what this person is talking about is being aware of awareness. It's kind of a crazy idea, and in fact, oddly enough, in one of his works on the principle of sufficient reason, I won't go into all of that, but anyway, Schopenhauer talks exactly about this, about the fallacy of the idea that the cognizer can cognize itself. It's deeply dangerous, actually, not just flawed, it's a dangerous idea, for reasons that I'll get to a little bit later. So anyway, this young man who posted this was a little bit shocked by my response and said, would you do a podcast? So here I am doing a podcast. The first thing to say is that the real part of you, the essence of you, in fact Spinoza said the essence of man is his desires. Schopenhauer said the same thing. And Gurdjieff said the same thing in a roundabout way. He said the real part of us is our subconscious, not our consciousness, this everyday mind we have that we are so identified with. My everyday consciousness, your everyday consciousness, the familiarity with our personality and our habits and our likes and our dislikes. It's a vacuous, empty thing. It's a product of our brain, and our brain goes to sleep every night, so it disappears for at least, however long you sleep, 6, 7, 8 hours each night. The real part of you is your desires, and it's, people might have the idea that they have desires. It's not like that. You are desire. You don't have desires and will. You are desires and will. Every cell, every muscle fiber in your body is desire, and that's why we like movement so much, and sports, and why the body is always trying to maintain itself in some way through eating food, through whatever means it can bring about that essentially promote its existence. So, desire is the real part of you. In other podcasts I've called this a wolf or the beast. Those are slightly derogatory terms, although Gurdjieff used the term the wolf. And, our ordinary everyday consciousness doesn't like to feel that actually it's a secondary phenomenon. The real part of you, as Gurdjieff said, is your subconscious. It's actually your desire nature. I think in some traditions they talk about a desire body. This is the real part of you. Forget about all the fancy stuff. Forget about enlightenment, loving kindness, all the kind of spiritual bullshit that we've been fed. The real part of you is your wolf, your body, your desires. You are desire. I really, really want to stress that because it's an important point. It's an anchor point. So, I've known various people, and one of the guys I knew who was, in my opinion, and I might have been wrong, but, he seemed like a very advanced practitioner of Zen. And I used to visit him on multiple occasions, and in his lounge were a lot of demonic masks. Why demonic masks? Because demonic masks represent the will, the desire. It was said of Gurdjieff that people couldn't really work out whether he was a good man or a bad man. Well, he was neither. He was just a real man. And if you read the book by Fritz Peters about Gurdjieff, Fritz Peters was a young boy that Gurdjieff took under his wing. Fritz Peters makes the comment in that book that Gurdjieff lived like an animal, because Fritz Peters was tasked with tidying Gurdjieff's room every day. And when I read that, I thought, well, there's a kind of validation of authenticity for me. There's none of this airy-fairy bullshit. The man lived as he was, as an animal. We don't like that, do we? We don't like to think that our bodies are animals and have animal needs. We pile on top of that a whole pile of conditioning about being nice, being polite, being considerate, so on and so forth. I'm not saying those are bad things. I'm literally just saying that those are not the real things. So, quite a lot of people have recognized that our real nature is desire, it's will, and we are that will. So if you want to get in touch with the real part of yourself, you have to get in touch with your desire. And I recently put an article on the Corporeal Fantasy website. I can't remember the title. I think it was The Only Question You Need Ask. And the only question you need to ask yourself at any time is, how am I feeling right now? Am I feeling a little bit anxious, a little bit angry, a little bit frustrated? Because you need to get in touch with the real part of yourself. Gurdjieff called it the subconscious. It's kind of buried away. We have to become sensitive to it, and the way we become sensitive to it is by becoming sensitive to our body and the way that we feel, our emotions. Because our emotions are authentic. They are our authentic response to the environment. And the way we feel is authentic, if you can get in touch with the way you feel. Some people are so out of touch with their emotions that they make stuff up in their head. How are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling fine, and it's a really nice day today. Meanwhile, underneath that, they're anxious, they're angry, whatever else might really be going on. Apart from the bullshit that they've got going on in their heads, it tells them that everything's fine and they're happy people and all the rest of it. So that's the real part of you, and that real part never sleeps. The will and desires are there all the time, 24/7. Your body processes food, it eliminates, it has a circulatory system, it has glands, a nervous system. They all operate 24/7 because the will and desire are tireless. Whereas your consciousness that is produced by your brain is a drain on the rest of your body. This everyday consciousness, which we use to navigate the world, and we do, as a species, we do that very, very successfully. This everyday consciousness is a drain on the body, and so the body puts it to sleep for several hours each night, and that is an absolutely necessary thing. So this everyday consciousness is it's a secondary effect, and in fact Schopenhauer summarized the whole thing very well. He said that our will and our desire are metaphysical. We don't know where these things come from. We don't understand this primary drive that is within us. It's a metaphysical thing. It cannot be analyzed further. It's there, and it's the nature of things, and it's almost like every other force in the universe. Gravity that causes the planets to orbit and galaxies to form and black holes to form and all the rest of it. These forces are kind of metaphysical in that they're there and they cause everything else to happen, and desire and will is like that within us. It's the real thing. That is the metaphysical. If you want to be, in quotes, spiritual, then you need to focus on the metaphysical, which is your desire and your will. When we come to consciousness, the thing that we prize most highly, our everyday consciousness, our everyday awareness, that is physical. It is produced by the brain. You would be irrational to deny that, because when your brain goes to sleep, your consciousness and your awareness goes away. For all intents and purposes, you don't exist anymore. So, consciousness and awareness are secondary phenomena. They are the product of an organ called the brain, and they are useful in life. And they help us do fairly abstract things, because we have developed an abstract the ability to think in terms of abstraction. But beyond that, they're not kind of real. So let me get to this claim that was made by this guy that we should be aware of awareness. Awareness is a product of our brain. And, there are many people who would argue with that, because awareness and consciousness are like, the precious little things that they hold out as being a gateway to something else. It's possible that they're right, but in my experience, and, I've sort of been in this game a long time, in my experience, consciousness and awareness don't lead anywhere. Placing your attention on your desires and your body and your emotional state lead to deep, deep contentment. Anyway, let me go back to attention. So attention is a product of the brain, and we can, to some extent, control attention. We can focus in on things. We can concentrate on things. But the idea that we should be aware of awareness is really an oxymoron. And people who might try this are in real danger of becoming extremely disturbed, because it's like a feedback loop. It doesn't go anywhere. It's circular. And as I say, there's a very, very elaborate treatment of this particular idea in one of Schopenhauer's works, that the cognizer cannot cognize itself. It's a ridiculous idea. So, to summarize this fairly impromptu kind of podcast, if you want to get in touch with the real, get in touch with your emotions and your desires. And the whole kind of, New Age consciousness and awareness and attention and concentration thing, as far as I can see, it's a blind alley. It leads nowhere. Consciousness is a dead end. Become one with your body, and as was very often said to me when I was involved in the Gurdjieff work, your body is your home. People don't like that, because the body's going to die. Well, guess what? Your mind is going to die. In fact, it dies every night for several hours. Anyway, there's a surprising thing happens when you become one with your body and your desires, you start to realize that these things are, well, I was going to use the word immortal. They are real, and desire is real, and it's very hard to explain, but it has more reality, more a sense of permanence than any notion of creating some elevated state of consciousness, which is going to go away when you go to sleep anyway. So I've explained that as best I can, but the notion that you should place your attention on your awareness, be aware of your awareness, crazy stuff. Lots of people buy into that because they want something other than their body and their desires. They want something supernatural, something elevated, and in reality they're going in the wrong direction. They're going up into the stratosphere where there's nothing, there's almost no air up there. There's nothing. It's almost a vacuum. There's nothing real to grab hold of. If you want reality, go down to the center of the earth, which is your emotions and your desires, and get really in touch with those. I personally, more times than I can count each day, just ask myself, how am I feeling right now? How am I feeling? And that is a thing in the body. It's nothing to do with the head. The head knows nothing about how you feel. It's your body that knows how you feel. And you'll find that is more real, more satisfying, and has more sense of permanence than anything to do with our stratospheric everyday consciousness, which is, as Gurdjieff said, an illusion anyway.